I stormed into St. Mark's Anglican Cathedral in Islamabad with 4 men to rip the Bible from the pulpit and burn it in front of the congregation, convinced that destroying the word of their false god would prove Islam's supremacy once and for all. But the moment my hand touched that Bible, my body seized, my vision went black, and I was taken to a place so bright and so terrifying that when I returned, I was screaming on the cathedral floor, because Jesus himself had shown me a habit that millions of Christians practice every single week, a habit they believe is godly, and he showed me that it opens a direct portal for demons into their homes, their families, and their churches. Have you ever been so certain that something you did for God was holy that you never once considered it might be the very thing inviting darkness into your life? My name is Faisal Imran Al-Qureshi. I'm 29 years old, and on March 18th, 2023, I led 4 men into St. Mark's Anglican Cathedral in the F7 sector of Islamabad, Pakistan, to seize the Bible from the pulpit and set it on fire during the Saturday evening prayer service. I had no idea that the God whose book I planned to burn was about to pull me into heaven itself and show me a truth so shocking that it would dismantle not only my Islamic faith, but the false security of millions of Christians who believe they are safe while practicing the very habit that is destroying them. I grew up in the G9 sector of Islamabad, where the streets smelled of grilled chapli kebab and diesel fumes, and the call to prayer from Faisal Mosque echoed across the Margalla Hills 5 times a day. My father, Imran Bashir al-Qureshi, was a respected Islamic scholar who taught Hadith studies at the International Islamic University. Students traveled from across Pakistan and Afghanistan to sit in his lectures. My mother, Faisal, wore the full niqab and ran a weekly Quran study circle for women in our neighborhood. She had memorized 14 juz and could recite them without a single mistake. Our home sat within walking distance of the university mosque, and the rhythm of prayer shaped every hour of our lives. While other boys in the neighborhood played cricket in the empty lots or spent their afternoons at video game shops, I sat cross-legged on the floor of my father's study, memorizing surahs. By 15, I had memorized the entire Quran. The elders at the mosque would say, "Allah has blessed your parents with a special son." I fasted every Ramadan from age 11 and added Monday and Thursday fasts voluntarily. I never missed a single prayer, not when I was sick, not when we traveled to Lahore, not once. My father taught me from childhood that Christians were people trapped in the worst kind of spiritual error. He said they committed shirk by worshipping a man as God, and that this was the one sin Allah would never forgive. He told me their Bible was corrupted beyond recognition and that their churches were monuments to idolatry. In our neighborhood, harassing Christians was considered normal. Boys threw stones at the small church on the edge of G9, and nobody corrected them. By the time I was 19, I had joined a student group at the university dedicated to countering Christian missionary activity. We distributed pamphlets, filed blasphemy complaints, and disrupted public Christian gatherings. I believed every word I spoke. By 27, I had a master's degree in electrical engineering and was working for a telecommunications firm in Islamabad. I was engaged to a devout woman named Aisha, whose father was an imam. I had career success, community respect, and unshakable faith. I had everything. Ask yourself this question. Have you ever built your entire life on something you were absolutely certain could never fail you? The trigger came in February of 2023. A colleague at work, a quiet Christian man named Daniel, left his Bible on his desk one afternoon during lunch. I picked it up. I did not plan to read it. I planned to throw it away. But it fell open to a passage in the book of James that talked about the tongue, how it could bless God and curse men in the same breath. Something about those words disturbed me, though I would never have admitted it. I put the book down and walked away, but the words stayed lodged in my mind like a splinter. The idea that a corrupted book could contain anything true enraged me. I told a friend from the student group, someone needs to take one of their Bibles and burn it in front of their own people. Someone needs to show them their book has no power. He nodded and said, "You should lead it." I had no idea that the Jesus whose word I planned to destroy was preparing to reveal himself in a way so powerful that my entire understanding of God, of sin, and of what truly invites evil into a human life would shatter in a single evening. I spent 3 weeks preparing. I recruited 4 men. Bilal, a theology student who could quote anti-Christian arguments from memory. Adnan, my cousin, who had once stoned pages from a Gospel of John during a street debate. Junaid, a childhood friend whose loyalty was absolute. And Vakar, a quiet but fierce man who had disrupted 2 church services in Rawalpindi. I chose St. Mark's Cathedral because it was the most prominent Anglican church in Islamabad and because their Saturday evening service drew a large crowd. We studied the building layout and memorized the schedule. Our plan was simple. I would walk to the pulpit during the sermon, take the Bible, hold it up for the congregation to see, and set it on fire using a lighter I would carry in my pocket. The other men would block the exits. I felt completely certain Allah approved of this mission. The night before, I prayed Tahajjud at 2 in the morning, pressing my forehead to the carpet and asking Allah for courage. But as I prayed, I felt something strange, a heaviness in my chest, like a hand pressing down from inside my rib cage. Not fear, something deeper. I dismissed it as nerves or shaitan's interference. I barely slept. I had no idea that the weight on my chest was not the enemy. It was a warning from the very God I was about to challenge. Have you ever been so sure you were doing God's work that you mistook his warning for the devil's attack? We arrived at St. Mark's Cathedral at 6:30 on a cool March evening. The sky over Islamabad was fading from orange to deep purple behind the Margalla hills. The church was built from pale stone with arched windows and a modest bell tower. A wooden cross stood above the entrance. Families were walking through the front doors, couples with children, elderly men with canes, young women carrying Bibles. A gray-haired woman at the entrance smiled at us and said, "Welcome, brothers, God bless you." She suspected nothing. Inside, the cathedral was overwhelming. Golden light fell from iron chandeliers. Candles flickered in alcoves along the walls, reflected in the polished stone floor. The smell of incense and old wood hung heavy in the air. Stained glass windows cast colors across the pews, deep blue, crimson, gold. The altar was draped in white linen, and on the pulpit sat a large leather-bound Bible, open and waiting. A piano played softly. Families sat together. Old women prayed with closed eyes. There was a peace in that building that unsettled me. It reminded me of the best nights I had ever spent in a mosque during Ramadan. I pushed the feeling away. The pastor began his sermon. He was speaking about the power of words, how what we say can build up or tear down, how the tongue is the smallest member of the body but controls the direction of a life. I had heard enough. I gave Bilal the nod. I stood from my pew, walked down the center aisle, and my shoes echoed on the stone. Every head turned. The pastor stopped mid-sentence. I reached the pulpit. I grabbed the Bible with both hands and lifted it above my head. "This book is a lie," I shouted. "Your God cannot even protect his own words. Watch." The congregation gasped. A mother pulled her son close. But no one rushed at me. No one shouted back. Instead, something I did not expect happened. People began to kneel, one by one, praying, quietly. The pastor raised both hands and said in a voice so calm it made my blood hot, "Brother, you are welcome here. That book you are holding, It is not paper and ink. It is the living word of the God who loves you. An old woman in the front pew, tears running down her cheeks, looked at me and said, "He died for your sins just as he died for mine." Their peace enraged me. I wanted a fight. I wanted resistance. I wanted proof that they were the enemy my father had taught me to hate. Instead, they gave me love, and I had no weapon against it. I reached into my pocket for the lighter. I flicked it open. I brought the flame toward the pages. That is when it happened. The moment that changed everything I believed about God. The flame touched the page, and a force like electricity shot through my hands. It raced up my arms into my chest. My fingers locked around the Bible. I could not let go. Heat filled my entire body, not the heat of fire, but something alive, something that burned from the inside out. Then the cathedral vanished. The people vanished. The sound vanished. Everything went white. I was standing in a place of light. Not a room, not a field. Light itself, stretching in every direction without end. The air, if it was air, hummed with the frequency I could feel in my teeth, in my bones, in the spaces between my thoughts. And standing before me was a figure. He was made of the light. His face was the most human thing I had ever seen, and simultaneously the most terrifying. Not because it was angry, but because it was completely, utterly true. Every lie I had ever told myself dissolved in the presence of that face. I knew who he was. Not because someone told me, because every cell in my body recognized him. This was Jesus, not Isa the prophet, Jesus the King. He spoke without sound. The words arrived inside me whole and complete. He said, "Faisal, I did not bring you here to condemn you. I brought you here to show you what is destroying my people from the inside." Then he showed me. The light around us shifted, and I saw scenes unfolding like windows opening in every direction. I saw a church, a beautiful church full of smiling people. They sang worship songs, they raised their hands, they looked holy. But then I saw something else. After the service, in the parking lot, in the hallways, over phone calls and text messages, I saw them speaking, not praying, speaking about each other. A woman telling another woman about a third woman's marriage troubles, framing it as a prayer request. A man in a Bible study sharing a brother's private sin under the guise of asking for accountability. A group of women gathered after service, voices low, words sharp, picking apart another family's struggles while nodding as if they were interceding. And then Jesus showed me what I was not prepared for. Behind each one of those conversations, I saw something in the spiritual realm that made my entire body go cold. Shadows. Dark shapes crouched behind the speakers like animals waiting to feed. Every time a piece of gossip left someone's mouth, disguised as concern or prayer, I watched a thin crack appear in the air around them, a fissure, a tear, and through that crack, something dark slithered into the space between them. Not metaphorically, I saw it happen. The gossip was not just words, it was an invocation, it was an invitation. Each sentence spoken about another person's pain, without that person's knowledge or blessing, opened a door that the speaker did not even know existed. Jesus said, "This is the habit. They call it sharing. They call it prayer requests. They call it concern. But I call it what it is, the tongue unleashed without love. And it opens portals they cannot see. More of my children are under demonic oppression from this single habit than from any sin the world would call serious. The murderer knows he has sinned, but the gossip believes she is righteous while the darkness fills her home." My knees buckled. I collapsed. Not in the vision, in the cathedral. I hit the stone floor of St. Mark's and I was weeping so hard my chest heaved. The Bible was still in my hands. Tears poured down my face faster than I could breathe. I could feel the cold stone against my forehead and the weight of what I had just seen pressing down on every cell of my body. Around me, Bilal was on his knees 3 pews back, sobbing. Adnan was crouched against a column, shaking. Junaid had fled through the side door. Waqar stood frozen near the back wall, tears streaming silently down his face. The congregation went perfectly still. Then they began to pray for us. The people we had come to attack were now on their knees, asking God to save us. Minutes could have been hours. The pastor knelt beside me. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "He loves you, son. He has been waiting for you. Do you understand now?" Ask yourself this question. How do you explain being taken to heaven by the very God whose book you tried to burn? I looked up through my tears and said, "What do I do now? How do I follow him?" The pastor helped me to my feet. Right there in front of the congregation, he led me in a prayer I repeated through sobs so deep they shook my whole body. "Jesus, I have been wrong about you. I tried to burn your word, but you took me to heaven and showed me truth I never deserved to see. You are not a prophet, you are Lord. Forgive me, save me. I surrender my life to you completely." The church erupted with joy. Strangers embraced me. An elderly man kissed my forehead. 3 of my 4 men, Bilal, Adnan, and Waqar, surrendered their lives to Christ that same night. Junaid ran, but he came to faith 4 months later. 6 months after that evening, I was baptized at St. Mark's. I chose the name Faisal Bulus, Faisal, my birth name, and Bulus, the Arabic form of Paul, the man who persecuted the church and then gave his life to build it. What happened next changed everything, and the cost was beyond anything I had imagined. That is when it happened, the second wave of pain. When I told my father, his face emptied of all expression. Then his voice came out cold as iron. "You are no longer my son. You are dead to us. You have disgraced this family beyond repair." My mother cried as though I had physically died. She blocked my number the next day. Before she did, she sent one text. "How could you do this to us?" Aisha threw her engagement ring at my feet. She called me murtad and said she would rather die unmarried than be with an apostate. Within weeks, I lost my fiancé, my family, my apartment, and my engineering position. Former friends held funeral prayers for me at the mosque. Death threats came by text and by hand-delivered letters. I had to leave Islamabad and relocate to a small city in southern Punjab where no one knew my name. But I gained everything that truly matters. I gained Jesus Christ, the living Jesus who pulled me into heaven and showed me what no sermon could teach. I gained forgiveness for every sin, including the ones I committed that very night. I gained peace that does not depend on anyone's approval. And I gained a church family at St. Mark's who loved me the same evening I tried to destroy their Bible. That was 2 years ago. Today I work with a ministry reaching Muslims across Pakistan and the Gulf region with 2 messages: the gospel of Jesus Christ and the warning he showed me in heaven about the habit that is opening doors for the enemy inside the church itself. I had no idea my testimony would travel the way it has. Over 100 Muslims have accepted Christ after hearing my story. But what surprises me most is how many Christians have come to me weeping, saying they recognize themselves in the vision, that they had been disguising gossip as prayer for years and never once considered what it was inviting into their lives. 13 months ago, I married a Christian woman named Grace. She is Pakistani. She is gentle and fearless in equal measure, and she understands the cost of faith in this country because her own uncle was imprisoned under the blasphemy law. We were married at St. Mark's Cathedral. The same pastor officiated. Bilal and Waqar stood beside me as groomsmen. I stood at the same pulpit where I had tried to burn the Bible, and this time I read from it aloud through tears of joy. The first words my daughter Hannah heard when she was born 5 months ago were not the Islamic call to prayer, but a whispered blessing in the name of Jesus. I still send letters to my parents twice a year, once on my mother's birthday, once during Eid. No response has ever come. I pray for them every single morning. I do not know if they will ever speak to me again. But the God who pulled me into heaven while I was trying to burn His word is powerful enough to reach their hearts too. Look inside your own heart right now. The Muslim scholar's son who stormed into a cathedral to burn the Bible no longer exists. In his place stands a follower of Jesus Christ who reads that Bible every morning and would die before denying the God who showed him heaven. If He can transform someone like me, someone who held a flame to the pages of God's own word, then He can absolutely transform you, no matter what you have done or where you come from. And if you are a Christian listening to this, ask yourself this question: have you been practicing the habit? Have you been disguising gossip as prayer? Have you been opening doors without knowing it? The same Jesus who took me to heaven and showed me the truth is calling you right now through this very testimony. He is not calling you to condemn you. He is calling you to set you free from the sins you know about and from the ones you have been committing without even realizing. He is offering you the same love, the same forgiveness, the same cleansing that changed everything for me. Do not wait. He is already pursuing you. Jesus is calling you right now. Will you let Him in and finally close the doors you did not know were open?